to Season 3 of Unapologetically Woman. We're celebrating phenomenal women all across Kentucky who make no apologies for their perspectives or the impact that they're making in the community. Today we're celebrating Dr. Soraya Matthews. Soraya is a wife, a mom, an advocate, and she is the Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Officer for Fayette County Public Schools. Unapologetically Woman, Dr. Soraya Matthews, that's you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have been working for over 20 years in the realm of equity. Why is that important for you?
I think it's important to me because of my upbringing. And really and truly, it goes back to being a child, growing up in Mississippi, seeing a lot of things that I knew wasn't right, couldn't put words to it at the time, of course, because of my age, but knowing that I was treated differently because of different things. Some of that being me being a girl, some of that being me being a Black girl. And I could even go as far as to say, me being a child from a single parent home, and just a lot of things, just a lot of the perspectives that I got to see as a child really rooted inside of me of wanting to not ever see another child have to deal with that, but advocate for other people in any way possible. So I really built that altruistic spirit from being a child.
What role did your mom play? How did that influence you?
Tremendous role. So I was an only child in my mom's house. So it was just she and I. She worked 12-hour days, sometimes longer than that. Very much a latchkey kid. She taught me to be independent. She taught me integrity. She taught me to always what she would call root for the underdog. So we in a community, we would always feed the neighbors. Everyone would come to our house. It was so funny. Like she would feed everybody breakfast. It was like the thing. And then we'd go to another neighbor's house for lunch. It was really the way she walked in this world that she also took care of people. And it just really poured into me to be a part of that.
And so she probably had something to do with you going in education. You've worked in nearly every educational system there is, elementary, middle, high school. What was that like?
She had a lot to do with me going into education. She herself, and she would say this, she's passed on now, but she had a 6th grade education. And because of that, she put a lot of emphasis on education. She poured everything that she knew from whatever grade up to 6th grade. She made sure I knew it before I even went into 1st grade. Like education was the ultimate goal for her. She always wanted me to become a teacher, but I'll be honest, as a child, that was the last thing I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I would even say I'd never be a teacher. I'll be anything else. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to work in education. But she always said to me, this is the way that you give back to more people. When she thought about the number of people that teachers touch in a year, and then the number of people that teachers touch over a lifespan throughout their entire career, she saw that as a way for me to be able to help others. So at first, like I said, at a younger age, I fought it hard. And then, divine intervention stepped in and said, yes, you will. And then I accepted. So she had a lot to do with that.
How do you think she would feel about you if she was still here?
I think she would be really proud. One thing that I promised her that I would do before she passed was to finish my doctorate degree. And for a long time after she passed, it really weighed heavy on me that I hadn't done that. So in 2016, so she passed in 2006. In 2016, I finished my doctorate degree. And I wrote my dissertation as a memoir to her. And I really feel like that she would be, at this moment, pretty proud of me. I think that the things that I'm doing, to see the impact that I'm hopefully making on the world and pouring into others to make an even bigger impact on the world, I think she would be proud.
I'm sure she would be, because what you do is pretty incredible, making sure that there's safe spaces for people, making sure that there's spaces where everybody belongs.
That's exactly right. Not just students, because a lot of people think that our work in our office, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, is centered around students, and it absolutely is. But it also is for the adults in our school district, because every adult, every teacher, every leader must also feel like they belong. And in feeling that, they will help ensure our kids feel the same. So it really is a comprehensive effort that we work with students, teachers and staff, and even families to some degree.
Wow. Okay, so you're also an adjunct professor.
Yes.
Or have been. Tell us about that.
Currently.
Currently? Okay.
Yes, at Georgetown College. Started there in 2017. A part of the Teacher Leader Master's Program over at Georgetown College. And the course that I started out teaching is different than the one I teach now. I started out as the technology instructional teacher because my background is also technology, which a lot of people aren't aware of.
Who knew?
Yeah, right. So it's like one of those
Talking about diversity.
hidden gems.
Mm-hmm.
But the staff at Georgetown, they saw really quickly that I was very much entrenched in equity and very much entrenched in diversity. And they offered me an opportunity to not only teach the class, but design it from scratch because it didn't really exist.
So you created the class that you
course.
teach. Yeah.
Yes, I created it, I designed it, and it's an online course, so it's all in Canvas, but I created it 100% from scratch. And I get a lot of great feedback. So I'm touching even more teachers. So these are teachers outside of our district because these teachers are from all over the state, all different districts, representatives. So I'm working with them on how to also become more equitable in their practices in their classroom, how to create a space that is inclusive, and in the end, making sure their students feel like they belong. So,
well, and because I'm 100%, I feel more comfortable when I feel like I belong in the space where I am.
absolutely.
You know, and so I would think that the same would be held for classrooms too.
That's exactly right. And when you think about it, if you can show up in a space and be your authentic self and not worry about anyone judging you about anything about you, things that you can't even control sometimes, you really can bring your all 100% of yourself in the classroom. When we talk about engagement, that's really where it gets at. You can't engage a kid if a kid can't be themselves. If they can't show up as their authentic self, then how are we actually going to be able to engage them? So really, the belongingness piece is the heart of what happens in the classroom.
And so your work, your resume is so diverse because you've also been the state school director for the Kentucky Department of Education for the School for the Deaf and the School for the Blind.
Yes, absolutely.
How did that happen?
Interesting story. I started my teaching career in Mississippi, and in Mississippi, I had one student who was deaf, and she and I we formed a bond. She started teaching me sign language. So when I relocated to Kentucky, one of the first jobs I looked for was at the Kentucky School for the Deaf. So they hired me as a teacher at the Kentucky School for the Deaf. And after being there about 2 years, they offered me this director position at the Kentucky Department of Education, kind of overseeing both schools, the School for the Deaf and the School for the Blind, which, of course, I was elated to have that opportunity to do so. But having that background of working with students who were deaf really empowered me to be able to support students who were blind in different ways, of course, because the needs are different, the supports that are there. But really, it provided me an opportunity to see another population of students where sometimes people will say vulnerable, right, or at risk. But I see at promise. I see the opportunity for students who people don't always understand how to support them, but knowing that they need someone to stand up and support them. And that role was, I love that role too. It was crucial to my understanding. It was crucial to my development in equity.
Well, and I could see that because, and I like the way that you said, you don't consider them vulnerable. You consider it a different opportunity.
Yes.
And I think the way that we use words to talk about people and refer to them, I think that matters too.
It does. It does. It carries a lot of weight. When you think about just words in general, how people describe, I'll go back to our students, how they describe our students from where they are in elementary, the words they use to describe students when they're in middle school, they change sometimes, depending on what the student looks like. So those are things that we talk about even in our training is the words you use, the things you say, it does matter. Words can be very powerful.
Helpful, harmful, encouraging, everything.
All of it.
All of it.
Yes.
When it comes to education, you say that you consider the most important role in education is that of the parent. What do you mean by that?
your parent is your first educator. And I say parent, but I can also extend that to families, right? Because your family structure looks different. It may be a grandparent, it may be an aunt or an uncle, but the people that you get to see from birth are your first educators. And in a sense, continue to be your advocates as you grow through education. So I think that being in that role, myself as a parent, it allowed me to, especially working in education, of course, it allowed me to be the advocate that my kids needed. And they all needed different things. We have 4 children, all 4 of them very different in their needs. And knowing that their education was important and knowing that my role in ensuring that they got the education they needed was vital. And that's what I feel the same for every kid, whoever that family member is, whoever that person is. Being there to advocate and make sure that a child has the best educational experience possible is crucial.
So, you're also an author. Yes, you are.
Yes.
The Equity Evolution. Tell us about that.
So The Equity Evolution is a book that I had on my mind for a long time. I've been thinking about it, and I went through a spell in life where I was battling cancer, and I did some treatments that caused me to have to live in my basement for about 2 months because of the radiation. I didn't want my kids to be impacted. So when I was in the basement, I used the time to write this book and finally get everything that was in my mind out on paper. And it starts out by sharing a little bit about my story and making sure that people understand that in order to work in this space of equity, it starts with being vulnerable. It really starts
being
with
vulnerable is so hard.
It is very hard. It is very hard. But that's why I started the book out with my story, because I wanted to create an exemplar for other people to know that before you can really do this work, you have to know yourself. You have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your biases are, the things that you bring to the table. And that's what the book starts out with. It shows my vulnerability of being who I am and recognizing that when I show up, even in the equity space, I show up as myself. And then the next part of the book really goes into different steps that I think individuals can take to grow what I call their equity IQ. I think that.
Did you coin that word?
I
too?
did.
Yes, you
I
did. Come on, let's cut that. Dust the shoulders off.
Yes, I coined that word, equity IQ. And it really goes back to everybody starts in a different place when it comes to equity. And it really is based on their own experiences. Some people are further along in the equity journey, some people not so much. But regardless of where you are, you start where you are. And then recognizing that there are steps that you can take to continue to grow. But also, I always use the infinity symbol to kind of describe this because it's never an end point. There's never an end point, right? Because this work in equity, it evolves. It continues to evolve, right? Because we had DEI and now we have DEI and B. You know, it evolves over time. And so as you develop your equity IQ, you also should think about it as a sense of evolving and where you are now, regardless of where you are, that you are building your learning, that you are doing things to make sure you're changing how your heart feels. But then what's even more important, that you are helping others become leaders of equity. Because that really is where the change happens. Only one person can do so much. Equity work is not the work of an individual, it's the work of a team. So the third part of that equity evolution is really speaking to how do we work on incorporating and building capacity for others to lead this work. And that's crucial.
Well, that's crucial, but that's not all you've done.
Everything's crucial.
Because it's a lot, right?
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's important work.
And you do a lot. You're also the founding director for Fayette County Public Schools Virtual Learning Academy.
Yes. So back in 2000 when COVID hit.
Yeah. To be creative during COVID.
Oh my gosh. And we had to be, right?
Absolutely.
We were thinking on the fly. And at the time, we weren't quite sure if we would be able to go back to school or not. And Manny, our superintendent at the time, came to me. Manny Kalk. Emmanuel Kalk. He came to me, and if you know him, you know his favorite word is partner.
Hey, partner, I got a project for you.
Partner, we got to get this done. Partner, we need the school. We got to get it up and running. And I said, okay, great. When you need it? He said, in 4 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
4 weeks. So it was 4 weeks before the start of school. Manny came and he said, I need you on this. I need this project done. We got about 4,000 kids who won't be able to come back face to face. We need a virtual school option for them. Teachers, curriculum, all the nine on this virtual platform. So
did you go like,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was
That's a tall task.
Huge undertaking. Really, the first thing I thought was, who am I going to get to help me? Because again, it's never work that you can do by yourself. Nothing really is. And it's also important that you get the right people to surround you that are ready to move forward, not people who are going to be naysayers to stop and halter the work or be barriers to the work. So I just really work with identifying people and partners to come to the table. We started working. We reached out to some other states who had done some things similar. So we had an exemplar. And we just got it going. I mean, we did hiring, we did the intake process, all of those things happened in 4 weeks' time. Now, there were some days that I didn't sleep, that I literally worked probably 29-hour days, but we had to get it done because our kids and our parents were depending on us. They weren't going to want an answer at the start of school to say, sorry, we don't have anything for you.
That's right.
We had to have something ready.
No option. When your back is against the wall, you turn around and come up, and you're the director for the Rise STEM Academy for Girls.
Yes, same year almost. This was before COVID. We started planning this. We had an opportunity, really, this was, the vision of it was, Emmanuel Koff, again, goes back to our former superintendent. He had a vision to have an all-girls STEM school. And in our office, that was the project he gave us the task to do it. We had some partners. We had some really good partners. We partnered with the University of Kentucky. We partnered with Toyota. We partnered with K-State, Kentucky State University, and some others.
Because it really does take a community to provide education. And that's one of the things that Manny was really big on as well.
Very much so. And I think anything you do in education, you have to realize you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
I mean, you have to have partners. You have to have community partners. You have to have family members. It's just, it is teamwork. And launching that school, though, I mean, that really is, if I were to say what really touched my heart more than anything, that was the one. And I stay connected to that school. It's kind of like my baby, so to speak. But we were able to launch that school with 150 young babies, kindergarten, first, and second grade, 50 students in each grade. In their first year, we hired a director. We snagged her from Chicago. But the school is doing well. It's continuing to thrive.
When you sit back at night or you're driving in your car and you're thinking about all of the things that you have done, what goes through your mind?
Well, so interesting enough, I never had that thought. My husband thinks I'm crazy because I'm always thinking about what can I do next. I don't really sit down to reflect on what I've done in the past, which is probably weird. It's when things like this come up and someone says, put it on paper or write it down. And then I'll start writing and jotting it down and it comes to me and I'm like, man, this list is long. It seems like this is a crazy person. But when I'm in my car and I'm listening to music, I'm always planning what's next. I'm thinking, okay, what can we do next? What can we do here? How can we problem solve here? How can we, create something innovative in this space? It's just, that's where my mind goes to.
Wow. So we're going to have young girls, young women that are watching this episode and looking to you and thinking, wow, I'd like to do something like she's doing. What kind of advice would you give them?
I think what I would say is take your time, get to know yourself and who you are. Know what you want to do and know what impact you want to make on this world, and don't let anyone stop you.
Thank you so much for coming. It was my pleasure to meet and to help celebrate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You guys continue to watch as we celebrate other phenomenal women just like Dr. Matthews who are making changes in Kentucky. I'll talk to you soon.